everyone, I am Amy Pierce Stone of Her Art from the Attic, and today we are going to be painting this rooster. This is the daddy-o of the Sussex chicken family. I'm going to be doing this in acrylics, but the techniques I'm going to teach you, you can apply them with oil as well. So, get your paints out and let's get moving. Let's talk about what you'll need for this painting, and I'll put all this in the description below. But you're going to need a bunch of paint: black, white, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, permanent green light, cadmium yellow light, magenta, and cadmium red light or scarlet. Now I am actually going to be testing out a new kind of acrylic paint. It's called Interactive by Atelier. The idea is that it's like a normal acrylic paint where it can dry pretty quickly, but if it dries more quickly than you'd like it to, then you can spritz it with water, or if it's been a little bit longer, they've got this unlocking formula that you can spritz on it, and it basically re-wets the color, the paint, so that you can continue blending wet on wet. Pretty fascinating stuff. I'm excited to try it out, because that's one thing about acrylics that often frustrates me, is that it dries so quickly. So we'll see how this goes. I've also got 4 different size paintbrushes. I've got a size 12 Filbert, I've got a size 2 Filbert, I've got a size 2 round pointed brush, and a size 1 liner brush. I will also be using this lesson reference kit that I've put together, and I'll put a link in the description below so that you can download it if you want. So the kit includes the original photo by Eric Pierce of Eric Pierce Photography, big brother, the grayscale photo, a line map, a complex sketch map, woo! We've got the color map with the colors over the photo, and then I've already used this, but it's my color map, and I've got all the recipes of the colors we will be mixing, and this is available for download also. Sorry, but it will not have the picture of a bunny that my 2-year-old drew. Yakety yak, let's get painting. Oh, tracing paper if you want. Paper towels if you want. Grab some water, you know, the usual. Okay, I have put some tracing paper over my grayscale photo of the rooster, and then I've cut out the rooster shape from my colored photo and put it right beside it, so that as I'm sketching it out, I can look at both and compare contrast and intensity of the lines, and also the shapes and basic lines. So I'm going to start by choosing my first shape to draw all the other lines from it. I'm going to do this rainbow shape that's right above the eye. It's this arch. So come about 1/3 of the way down your paper or canvas, and right in the middle, and you're going to draw this little arch. And then from the top of the arch in the middle, you're going to draw a line out, and then it comes down and out a little bit more. Now for the beak, we're going to draw 2 triangles jutting out from the other side of the arch. And then at the point of each beak, you're going to curve those lines, those points down a little bit. Now from the base of that arch, you're going to draw a line slightly slanted down more toward the middle of the paper, and then it comes up to a point on that curved line that we did before, and from that point you're going to create a triangular shape all the way down to the corner right edge of your paper. So if you know how to draw a triangle, you can draw this, okay? And then remember, we're going to create the lines after that. So we've got like these wavy lines on the side of the rooster, right? Let's create those. But we know that all these curvy lines need to come off of the triangle. So let's do that. So we'll draw these wavy lines here. And starting at the head, you've got this line that comes out, a little bump, then in. Then these curved lines just get bigger as you go down. So you got little bump, medium bump, big bump, and then this even bigger bump that you don't see because it comes off the paper. And then you're going to do that on the other side also. So I'm going to start where that bottom of the arch was, right there. See that point? And I'm going to just, these curves are a lot more subtle. Just slight curves. Okay, and then you'll just erase those lines. This is one reason I'm showing you on this, so I can make it nice and dark. When you sketch it on your canvas, do it very lightly so that you can erase the lines easily and they won't affect your paint. Now I'm just doing a circle right in that arch and a circle around that, so basically like a donut shape on the side of the arch. And then there's this other little crescent shape with a line, you know, going across the bottom, or not crescent, but arch with a line. Now let's draw his gobble gobble thing. What's it called? I just forgot. The waddle. That's what it's called. So we're going to start about the middle of the bottom of his beak there, and then just do some wavy and curvy lines that meet kind of at the bottom of that first little wave there. Now let's do his comb. That's the thing on the top of his head right there. So starting pretty close to the tip of his top beak on the top, you're going to draw this little jaggedy wavy line that arches back. And now you're going to draw the points of the comb by just, you know, drawing these triangular shapes. Some are more pointy and some are more rounded. And then as you come to the back, it just is this big round shape that connects to the back of his head. And if you drew a line straight across from where it connects to his head, you would go straight to the beak. That gives you kind of a point of reference of where that comb should end. So that is the basic sketch of the rooster. If you want, you can go fill in some of the details, like the arch above his eye, or the wrinkles, or the feathers, but that's up to you. So we're going to go on to the painting now. Let's mix up the colors for the body of our rooster. I've got 8 parts green to 1 part red. It gives us this kind of green-brown color. I'm going to test it right there on my color map. Looking pretty good. Now I've got a big glob of cadmium yellow light, and I'm going to put just a tiny dot of black. And now I'll add some white to that until we've got this soft green color. Now mix 20 parts white to 2 dots of permanent light green and 1 dot of ultramarine blue. You basically get like this really light minty color. So these 3 colors that we've just mixed will give us 3 different intensity values to blend together to create the colors in the body of our bird, the base colors. Now we are going to take our lightest hue, that light minty green, and we are going to cover the entire body of our rooster. I am using a Filbert size 12 brush. Now I am going to take the darkest hue that I mixed, remember that brown greeny color, and I am going to drag it on the tip of my brush along the side of the rooster. And I am going to just pull my brush over it again and again and pull those colors into the lighter green that I mixed before, or that I laid down before. So just gently drag your brush over and over it until you get the colors mixed up nicely. So I'm trying to make it so I don't see any lines of paint. It just fades from this dark hue pretty quickly to the light hue. So my paint dried before I could blend it as much as I wanted. It's a little too dark, but I spritzed some water on it because this is the interactive paint, if you remember, which re-wets the paint and makes it malleable again. So you can continue blending, which is really cool. Usually if you're using acrylic paint and it dries but you haven't finished blending it, then you just have to keep using more paint and try to work more quickly the next time. But this is really amazing. I just re-wet it. The colors are easy to blend again, making it to me feel more like oil paint. I always loved painting with oil paints because they were so malleable. I could keep blending and keep molding before they would dry. I mean, they would take forever to dry, right? So you can just keep playing with the colors. But when I got pregnant and then kept just having babies, I couldn't or didn't want to use oil paint anymore because of the toxicity. I didn't want to have to wear masks every time I painted, so I turned to acrylic painting, which I really love, but I miss some of those benefits of oil painting. But with these paints, the interactive paints, I kind of feel like I'm using them again, and I'm really excited about this. All right, moving on. I am going to mix the colors for his waddle and his comb. And I've got 20 parts white. Sorry, it's kind of out of the shot there, but it's 20 parts white to 1 part cadmium red light and 1 part magenta. And this will give me this really nice light pink hue. Now I am mixing 8 parts cadmium red light to 1 part black and 2 parts magenta. Okay, so now I am going to take that bright pink, the light bright pink color that we mixed, and I am going to put it down in the brightest parts of his comb and his waddle. And I am just using a size 2 pointed round brush, just dragging it through, and I'm kind of tapering it off where I want it to blend with the darker hues later. Okay, now I am going to bring in this medium bright hue for his waddle and his crown. And I got this by mixing 2 parts cadmium red light to 1 part magenta. And I'm going to pull this through almost the entire crown and waddle. I'm going to let a little bit of that light pink shine through. And where I want it to shine through, the lighter color, I'm going to drag this bright red color over it just a little bit until it blends. And if I need to re-wet it, I do, using the interactive paints. So lay this down throughout the waddle and his crown and around his eye. Now we are going to bring in our darkest hue. Remember that red-black color that we mixed? And we are going to pull it through the darkest parts of his waddle and comb. And we're really going to emphasize, where the shadows are and where the creases and wrinkles are. So now I'm just going to put this in fast motion and let you watch. I basically layer and layer and layer all these 3 hues until I get the desired effect. So you keep laying it down dark where you want it dark. If it's too dark, just brighten it back up with some more red. Sometimes if you're brightening it back up, it takes a few more layers, but that's okay. You keep going. If you're using the interactive paints, you really don't have to use much. And sometimes all it takes is re-wetting it and then blending those colors. You don't even have to use more. Okay, now I am going to pull some of the color that we mixed for the darker hue of his body. Remember, we got it by mixing 8 parts green to 1 part red. And I'll brighten it up maybe a little bit with some white. And I'm going to use that for his beak, and I'll pull some of the red from his waddle and his comb also. And I am using a really small size 1 Filbert for this. And then I'll pull a little bit of cadmium yellow light into the tips of his beak. Okay, now I am going to grab some of that same deep hue that we mixed for the body that we used in the beginning, that green brown color, and I am whisking small brush strokes up into his body. And I'm really paying attention to the pattern of his feathers on the picture. And I'm whisking, whisking, whisking. Very gently, very subtly. The paint is pretty thinned down. Whisking it into his body. This will give us the illusion of many different feathers, and I'm going to do this throughout his body. Now we are going to use gray to accentuate the lines that we just laid down and to start really helping form the shape of the feathers. So I got this gray by mixing 20 parts white, 2 dots of permanent light green, and 1 dot of ultramarine blue. So we're going to basically put this gray inside of the brown lines we laid down. You'll also notice that the feathers start out really light and tiny at the top of his head, and then they get darker and bigger as they flow down his body. I mean, his head and his neck virtually stay white or really, really light. So bear that in mind as you're painting down these feathers. And so I'm also going to keep the left side of his body there, right, under his waddle. It's a lot darker than the other side of his body. So I'm going to put a little bit more brown and a little bit more gray over there, and then it just gets lighter and lighter as we go to the other side. And then as we get to the other side, I'm going to make those colors a little bit more dense again to help give it dimension and roundness. Now we are going to take that medium green hue that we mixed in the beginning, and we're going to wisp it up into each feather, starting at the pointy base of each feather, going upward. And we're going to do it in these shaggy little wisps, so it looks like the little tiny fibers on each feather. I am going to do this with a size 1 liner brush, and you'll notice that my liner brush is pretty long. It's a lot easier to get the really fine lines with a longer brush. Now I am using some burnt umber mixed with a little bit of permanent light green to paint in the center really dark details of each feather. Use this dark brown color. I'm going to use the lighter green color from the beginning, and I'm also going to use black on top of that to accentuate these lines in the feathers. Now these lines go in the center of each feather, and they're not just a straight line. Most of them start out at a point at the bottom and then they get bigger as they go up, and most of them are cut off by another feather above them. So the top of each one may be just flat across. It could be kind of a triangular shape inward. Some of them are rounded. This really helps give the illusion that there's feathers overlapping themselves. Okay, now using the same liner brush, I am going to take that really light minty color that we mixed in the very beginning, and I am just going to put some last final tiny fine details on the head of my rooster. And I am going to whisk some of that color right up into his comb, the base of his comb, so it's overlapping that vibrant red. This is where it starts to look pretty photorealistic when you put these little details. And I'm going to put some highlights around his eyes, some dots here and there using the very tip of my liner brush. Just help give it texture. I'll highlight his earlobe there. Just really give dimension and highlight to some of the areas that maybe got a little muted down with some of the darker tones. Okay, now here's where I vary from the photo a little bit. I wanted my own color background. So I've taken a really dark color, I've mixed 1 part black with 1 part burnt umber, and I'm just filling in the area all around the rooster. For the bigger area, I'm just using my 12 Filbert again, and then to put in the dark area right around the rooster, I am using that 2-point pointed brush. So I'm basically just making this color pretty solid to start out with. Then I grab my liner brush, same color, and I wisp some very fine lines up around the perimeter of his body up into the feathers to just help give it that extra little illusion of actual individual tiny little feathers. It really makes a big difference to do this. Okay, now is where I just start playing with colors. I grab magenta and I start pushing it in a vignette around the edges and the corners, leaving the dark around the rooster quite dark. Then I grab some of that cadmium red light and I push that into the magenta. And then I grab some of that cadmium yellow medium and I push that into the red, and I'm really wanting it to stay this nice vignette. Then I grab some ultramarine blues, some more magenta, push them into each other. Just push, push, push. Be really careful not to cover up some of the detail of your rooster. I did that a couple times. Not the most exciting thing ever. And this was fun too because I also used the spritz with these interactive paints so that I could just keep working on that background, which is if you've worked a lot with acrylics and trying to blend really nice backgrounds, it can be really difficult because they dry so fast. So they just lend themselves so nicely to blending the colors together. And the colors just turn out so rich and vibrant. I love it. So if you've noticed, I'm using all the colors in my palette, all the main colors that I use to mix the colors of my rooster. Except I'm not using white, but I'm using the other colors. Just pushing it around, adding, pushing, adding, blending. Alright guys, I am done! Thank you so much for watching. These paints are so much fun. I can't wait to try them again. Remember, they're the interactive paints by Chroma. I'll put a link below so you can find all that stuff. Subscribe if you haven't. Give me a thumbs up so I know to keep making tutorials like this. If you have any requests or tutorial ideas, put them in the comment section below. Don't forget to find me on Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. All right. Bye-bye.